I am Don Fluckinger, coming at you live from the American Telemedicine Association's annual meeting in San Jose, California. I'm here with SearchHealthIT and HIT Key physician contributor, Dr. Joe Kim, who also is the founder of the medicineandtechnology.com blog. Hey, thanks for taking some time to shoot the breeze with us today.
Absolutely, it's great to be here.
So, what's been the most interesting thing you've seen on the exhibit floor here?
Well, here we are. I mean, we're seeing a lot of different technologies. Many of these companies provide similar types of capabilities. I think the innovation that I see are the strategic collaborations between the different organizations, as well as the way that they're tackling not only the reimbursement barrier, but just providing what I would call services that are very specific to a certain specialty or to a group practice based on the way that they're structured. And so, I mean, it's just nice to be walking around to see the variety. There's certainly a lot of overlap, but I think that eventually everyone kind of seems to agree that we're in the midst of a transition right now. And as this telemedicine market grows and evolves, we're going to see more and more of these collaborations and partnerships between these organizations. So that's really, I think, the thing that strikes me. It's fun to see, of course, the robots that sort of drive around, you know, with the webcam or the camera built in and the screen. And that's a personal favorite of mine.
Well, it's kind of creepy when you walk by and you're on the robot's video screen.
Well, I mean, you have to know what the robot is and, you know, of course, interact with it. But in many ways, it's I think that's really the way of the future, and that's going to become sort of the norm. Right now, it's almost this novelty to have a roaming robot, but I think it won't be long before that becomes, you know, pretty standard. So, how about you? What have you seen as you walk around?
Well, obviously, there's a bunch of very interesting and innovative vendors who are showing telemedicine gear and services and software and applications, but the one that I liked, I spoke to the founders of ClickCare yesterday, and to me it was just fascinating. I like seeing when a physician starts a company based on need instead of, you know, some giant corporation sort of identifying some marketing, you know, opportunity and building a service around that. And this is a physician and his wife started this company that now has an app for the iPhone that securely delivers images from primary care or emergency rooms to specialists. And I thought it was really cool, and then that was validated, well, at least in my mind today. And when the Woz, during his keynote, Stephen Wozniak, co-founder of Apple, did the keynote this morning, he name-checked them. And that was the only exhibitor that he talked about on the floor. And
right, sure.
What did you think of the whole Woz experience?
I mean, when I think back of how the computing industry has evolved, I think back of, it doesn't seem that long ago when products like the Apple II were sitting on our shelf. And I think that the innovation that he was able to really just leverage and build these computers, and here they were, these guys in their 20s, they really didn't have any money at all, but yet they were passionate, they were innovative, they did the best that they could with their resources, and now look at Apple as a company. So I think it was very inspiring. I think, you know, the standing ovations, both when he showed up as well as when he concluded his speech, shows that there's a tremendous appreciation of a company like that, where that kind of entrepreneurial spirit has now really moved not just the country, but really the world in terms of computing. And I think here we are at the telemedicine conference where we're surrounded by entrepreneurial-minded folks. And, you know, speaking of a physician founding a company, MedWeb is one of those telemedicine vendors. And at the far end, they actually have a telemedicine clinic where they demonstrate how they have gone to war zones like Afghanistan, as well as disaster sites where power is completely wiped out, there's no cellular reception on the grid, and where they have brought in solar power as well as generators, clean water, you know, that use reverse osmosis to provide clean water at the site of a disaster, as well as cellular uplink, these boxes that effectively create a local cellular network, and then it uplinks to the satellite. So even in the midst of disasters, you could actually go in there with these kinds of tools and resources and deliver care to these patients. Of course, it's all using telemedicine resources, and the doctors can be remote. But I think both in the war zone as well as in disaster areas, I mean, those are some real tangible applications. And it's inspiring, I think, to see that, of course, everyone has their business cap on. They're thinking about how they can sell their services here in the United States, but of course they're also thinking about other countries where it might be a single-payer system. But telemedicine is probably most applicable in many ways in these developing areas, the rural areas, disaster zones, and also in the military setting, which is why we see so many exhibits and research being done by the military. So I think those are some of the really very practical but also innovative applications that we will then translate into the real-world practice for private practice physicians, academics, and I think that's where we're going to see some real innovations occurring in the world of telemedicine.
So I'll ask you, what was the most interesting thing you've heard here, either on the floor or in a session, but I'll go first. I was at a breakfast panel yesterday morning, and a physician involved in telemedicine implementation at UPMC, the University of Pittsburgh Medical Center, was lamenting the lack of data interoperability between EHR software and telemedicine, or basically any systems. And he made the statement, don't let data interoperability with the EHR get in the way of your telemedicine implementation, meaning write it off. Don't worry about hooking up your telemedicine service to the EHR system, because in the later stages of meaningful use, HIEs will take care of the interoperability, and he didn't trust the vendors to take care of that. So just forget about the interoperability piece and move on and wait for the HIEs to clean up the mess.
Well, what's interesting is I attended an industry executive panel where the term interoperability came about several times. And if you attend something like the HIMSS conference, you see a huge interoperability showcase.
Right.
And one of the panelists actually spoke saying that we hope that next year at ATA we will see that kind of interoperability showcase, because it's necessary, it's needed, and not everyone is thinking about it. Not everyone has the capability of sharing that kind of information, and we're certainly in the midst of health information transitions with things like ICD-10 and HIPAA 50/50, but I think that is where we're going to ultimately need to be. And so what's surprising is you come to a conference like ATA, you see many of these telemedicine vendors, but there's really no EHR vendor here. And I think as ATA grows, we're going to start seeing the EHR vendors talking about how they have collaborated, hence my earlier comment about those strategic partnerships and the collaboration that's required to be able to share that information and ultimately have that kind of cohesive as well as seamless transitions that occur.
Well, this has been great stuff and informative stuff. Thanks for joining us today.
It's great to be here. Yeah, look forward to next year. I think this meeting is going to just continue to grow. And, one of the themes that kept coming up at ATA this year was that telemedicine is going to become the new standard of care. Right now it may seem like a novelty, but in a few years it's really just going to be expected and it's going to become standard. And so I'm looking forward to the day when that happens.
All right, well, we'll see you there next year.
And remember, you don't know HIT until you've read SearchHealthIT.com.